How does the Mito Light Mitohacker 4.0 compare to 3 of the best red light therapy wall panels on the market? Is the higher cost and the much larger size really worth it? I'm going to help you find out. You may have seen my 2024 red light therapy comparison video. In that video, I looked at 17 different panels. These 3 panels, the PlatinumLED Biomax 900, the Rojo Therapy Refine 900, and the Block Blue Light Mega 4.0 came out on top. They were the best 3 panels out of the 17 I tested. But I often get questions, what about the Mitohacker? It looks like a really good panel. And it is. I've done a full review on it. I'll put links to it below, you can check that out. But I want to go through and see how it compares to these panels. Also, be sure to hang around until the end of this video because I'm going to crunch the numbers and see how the Mitohacker would have placed if it was included in my 2024 comparison series. It's an interesting result, be sure to hang around for that. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is it's a different color. It's black compared to the 3 panels over there that are white. It's also a lot wider. You see, this panel packs in 400 LEDs compared to 300 LEDs in the other panels. When I did that comparison series, I had to set a limit on LED count. Otherwise, there would literally be thousands of panels in the series. So that meant the Mitohacker wasn't included in the series. The smaller Biohacker from the same company was, and that panel placed 8th overall, which is a respectable placing given there were 17 panels and Mito Light is a new company. Now there are actually quite a few similarities between these panels. And real quick, I will mention I have done a deep dive head to head with these 3 panels in another video, so you can go check that out if you want. But all 4 of these panels have a built-in touchscreen. To be honest, this is a really nice feature, and I'm hoping more and more panels do introduce touchscreen control panels. And because these 4 panels all have built-in touchscreens, it's probably why they're so popular and perform so well. Now, the touchscreen control panel in the Mito Light isn't as, let's say, polished as the Biomax, which has been around for a few years. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're just using this to turn on and off a light. When we look at the wavelengths from the Mito Light panel, again, it's actually quite similar. Well, there is one exception. You see the Mito Light Mitohacker is emitting 6 different wavelengths. You're getting your 630, 660, 670, 810, 830, and 850 nanometer light. Now the Rojo and the Block Blue Light panels, the 2 on the end, they also emit those wavelengths. Well, technically they only emit 5 wavelengths, but because 660 and 670 is so similar and how light works when it's been emitted from LEDs, there is a pretty good overlap. You're still getting 670 nanometer light in those 2 panels. The exception here is the PlatinumLED Biomax. That actually emits 7 different wavelengths, the 5 that the Block Blue Light and Rojo emit, but the Biomax also emits 1060 nanometer near infrared light and some blue light. So there are great benefits from that. I'm not going to go into them in this video because I've done it in other blogs and videos, but if you're looking for a panel with the 1060 or of course the blue light, then yeah, Biomax is the standout here. But the Mito Light isn't losing any ground compared to the other panels. Now the Mito Light Mitohacker also is using dual chip LEDs. That means each one of these LED lenses up here has 2 chips. Each chip is emitting different light. It means you're getting a better spread, better coverage of light. The Block Blue Light down the end also has dual chip LEDs, and so does the Rojo Refine. The Biomax, on the other hand, still uses single chip LEDs. Now, the Mito Light Mitohacker also comes with an application. That means you can control the panel from your phone. This is true for the Biomax panel and also the Rojo Refine panel. The Block Blue Light panel down the end doesn't have an app, but it does come with an included remote. Mito Light doesn't have a remote. They only have the app. Finally, there's 3 different stand options for the Mito Light. Biomax actually has 5 stand options, the other 2 panels, 3 stand options. All right, so those were the similarities. What about the key differences here? Where does the Mitohacker really stand out or fall behind compared to these 3 leading red light therapy panels? First up, it actually had a little bit of EMF. This is in the magnetic field. It wasn't a concerningly high amount, and to be honest, it doesn't bother me at the slightest. But some people are very sensitive to EMFs and want to avoid it at all costs. In which case, I would recommend one of the 3 smaller white panels because they will all rock bottom on the EMF front. Next up, Mito Light, the company behind this panel, is based in Czech Republic in Europe. This is rather unique. It's the only red light therapy company from Czech Republic that I'm aware of. And as for European companies, there are a few. I have done a video looking at all the European red light therapy companies. But if you are living in that area, then of course it's a big attraction. I'll explain more soon. PlatinumLED is an American-based company, and Rojo and Block Blue Light are actually based in New Zealand. However, they have warehouses all across the world. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you live in the EU and you want a panel quickly in a hurry, Mito Light is probably going to be the best here. However, I know Rojo also have a warehouse in France, so factor that in. Block Blue Light have a warehouse in the UK, and PlatinumLED are shipping from Asia and America. But that's not the only thing to think about. If you have an issue with the panel and need to return it, of course, a local company is much more easier to work with. And another thing to think about is import duties. If you live in, say, America and you buy this panel, you may be hit with import duties when it comes into the country. I don't know, it varies from country to country and also from company to company in terms of who they're shipping with and what their policies are. But it's just something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people do prefer buying from companies that have a warehouse in their own location. And in this instance, Block Blue Light and Rojo Therapy perform really, really well. Check out my reviews of those panels to learn more about this particular issue. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, can you go down, hit the like button, and also while you're down there, subscribe. I've got a lot more videos like this coming out this year. Cheers. Okay, back to the features. Now, the Mitohacker doesn't have pulsing. The Biomax panel also doesn't have pulsing, but the Rojo Therapy and the Block Blue Light do. So if you want pulsing, then yeah, it's probably a bit of a turnoff. And as I mentioned earlier, of course, this panel looks different. It's black. If this design appeals to you, I don't know, want a black panel in your room or office because of the way you've styled that room, then yeah, that's definitely going to be something to factor into your purchasing decision. The key difference though, and this alone is probably why I get so many of the questions, is because of its size. Now, if you measure the actual panel size, these three panels are all about 12 inches across. This is 16. But I actually prefer measuring the LED width, the width from the outer edges of the LEDs, because that gives you a better representation of how much light, how wide that light is going to be when it hits your body. Okay, so these three panels all have a width of about 9.5 inches. The Mito Light Mitohacker has a width of 14.5 inches. So that's 3 more inches you're getting with this panel over the other 3, which is quite a lot. I mean, if you're wanting to treat shoulder to shoulder from one particular panel, yeah, you really do need that wider width. Of course, you can counter this with the smaller panels by getting 2 of them. This is something I've done with my Biomax quad setup. I actually have 4 for a full body coverage, or you can get larger panels. Both Block Blue Light and Rojo Therapy sell their XL full body panels. Of course, they are a lot more expensive and they are a lot more difficult to move around and hang, but that is another option as well. And then finally, with the wider panel also comes more LEDs. There's 400 LEDs in this panel. There's only 300 LEDs in the other panels. But with the larger panel and the more LEDs comes a higher cost. So you can pick up the Mito Light for a discounted price of $1,789 US. I say discounted because I do have a discount link and a discount code. If you scroll down, you can purchase this panel and you will save a few dollars. I am affiliated with these companies, so I do get a bit of a commission as well. But for $1,789, it's about $500 or $600 more than the other 3 panels. That's a big chunk of money. You're looking at $1,100, $1,200 up to $1,700, $1,800. The cool thing is Mito Light ship free internationally, and that's true for most of these companies as well. Now you may be thinking, yeah, okay, I'm happy spending that extra money because I am getting more LEDs. I'm probably going to get more power. It's all worth it, right? Well, actually, I've crunched the numbers here. You see, the Mito Light is the weakest powered panel out of these 3. Though maybe I shouldn't use the word weakest here, because this panel is not weak. It's putting out 71 milliwatts over centimeter squared at 6 inches. This is great. It's a ton of therapeutic red light. Compare that with the others. The Rojo Therapy panel is about 73. The Block Blue Light is about 86. And the Biomax is a 90 milliwatt rating, which is the highest I've tested in any of these panels. Still though, you go back a year or 2 and 70 would have been market leading. So again, it's not weak, just compared to the others, it's not as powerful. So knowing the power number and also the price, I can do a really neat value calculation. And this tells you roughly how many dollars you have to spend to get 1 watt of therapeutic red light. And the Mito Light comes out with a figure of $8.28. Remember, the lower the number, the better. To put this in comparison, the Biomax has a figure of $6.40. So even though the Mito Light panel is bigger, you're not benefiting from economies of scale here. There's no benefit of getting the larger panel in terms of price point. And so effectively you are paying a premium to get that wider, larger panel. Okay, so knowing all of this, what do I suggest? Well, first up, if you're price sensitive and you're on a tight budget, the other 3 panels offer much better value, in which case go check out my videos looking at those 3 and make your decision based on that. Likewise, if you live outside the EU and you're worried about money, but you're not super strict on it, in that case, I'd still recommend one of these other 3 because you could be hit with import duties. And again, this is expensive for what it is compared to the others. If you're not price sensitive, you're happy to spend the money on something good that ticks all the boxes, then it really depends on what those boxes are for you. What is your budget? Where do you live? And what are you trying to do here? For instance, if you can only afford, say, $1,000, but in 6 months' time, you'll have another $1,000 to spend, you may want to look at one of the smaller panels, and as these panels connect together, you can get multiple panels over time and build one large array. So sure, you may not have the width from one panel to begin with, but 6 months later you get the second one, and all of a sudden you've got an 18-inch treatment area. Now, if you do have a ton of money, $2 grand, $3 grand, the Mito Light easily fits your budget, you may actually be better looking at, say, the Block Blue Light XL or the Rojo Therapy Refine 1500. These are much larger all-in-one body panels. Now be sure to subscribe because I will be doing a little mini comparison with these all-in-one larger body panels, so that will be worth checking out. Alternatively, you can do what I do and just get a bunch of the Bimax 900s, get their really nice stands, and you have a large panel set up that way. Now, I'm not saying don't buy the Mito Light, I'm just saying these are the things you need to factor in. Of course, if you just want one wall panel and you don't want to get one of these massive large panels, maybe freight's going to be an issue or the thought of moving it around is, prohibitive. In that case, the Mito Light panel is really, really good. It is a good, decent size, putting out plenty of therapeutic light. It's got all the key wavelengths, nice touchscreen. It's got an app from a company that has great support. I mean, again, it's not a bad panel, not at all. I'd be more than happy using this if it was the only panel I have access to. It just really depends on how you want to play it. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Alex, how would have this panel performed in my 2024 comparison series? Well, yeah, I had the same question. So I went back and I ran the numbers. First up, the Mito Light panel would have scored top place in the first round. It was the biggest, the widest, and had the most LEDs, so it would have got max points there. In the power round, it had similar numbers to its smaller biohacker brother, so it would have got the same points there. And then for every other round, apart from price, it also would have scored the same as the biohacker panel. So if you forget about price and add the extra points for the size, I found that it would have placed 6th overall. This is slightly better than the smaller biohacker, which got 8th. And interestingly enough, it was very similar to the LightPath LED panel. Now, I don't have the LightPath LED panel here, but that panel is wider than these 3, but not quite as wide as the Mito Light panel. The LightPath LED panel is a lot cheaper than this panel, and it's also quite unique in terms of the wavelengths and the design. So maybe if you've watched all this and you like the wider panel, but you don't want to spend all the money, you might want to check out the LightPath LED panel. Of course, I've done a full review on the LightPath LED panel as well, so you can check that out. But despite all these pros, compared to these other 3 panels, the Mito Light panel is lacking in a few areas. There's no pulsing, there's no built-in smart modes that we see in the Rojo Refine, or the ability to individually change wavelength power, and there's no unique wavelengths like we see in the Bimax panel. Otherwise, go check out my comparison series or even the video looking at these 3 panels to see what's going to be the best for you. You can see them up here.